Alrighty, Paws Up Podcast, episode 77. Very excited to be back on. It's been a while, Jake. Football's over, basketball's underway, baseball's coming up. That's what we're doing this today.
Right
And we
around
have a
the
lot to
corner.
talk about, Jake.
Yeah, my gosh, baseball's right around the corner. It's never too early to look ahead to 2025. It'll bring so many new opportunities, but for FIU baseball, a new chance to win the conference and maybe even the College World Series. You never know.
Alrighty, we're very excited to have Rich Witten, head coach of FIU Baseball, going into his third year with the program. Coach, how are we doing? Very excited to have you back on for the second time.
Doing great, guys. Yeah, I'm fired up to be with you today. I appreciate you having me on.
Alrighty, Coach. It's now been 2 years at FIU, living in Miami. Just how's the lifestyle been? I know you went from VCU, pretty cold up there, coming to Miami, pretty good weather all around, and obviously a different atmosphere and culture.
Yeah, well, you're looking at it right now, right, guys? I'm
Yeah.
outside on the back patio. Sun's out with the palm trees in the background. So I think it's safe to say that my family and I have adapted very quickly and very gladly at the same time. So we love it down here. Personally, I've always been a warm weather guy. Love the climate, love the atmosphere of baseball, here in Miami and here in South Florida. It's a sport that people – they grow up loving it, and it's in the culture down in South Florida. So I love to be in it, and my family loves it as well. Wife and two little kids now love it down here. And so, we're really excited and really love being down here, especially going into year 3. Like you said, we're settled in and full steam ahead with the baseball program right now.
Yeah, you mentioned it. The last time you were on the show, episode 26. That was on July 20th of 2023, well over a year ago. We've all gotten a year older, a year wiser. And for you specifically, Coach, how would you say you personally are handling season number 3 overall, and how it differentiates from when you were preparing for your first season under the helm here at FIU?
I think it's really just the continuity of the program in its entirety. It starts with the staff. We've retained our entire staff from last year, and we have fantastic staff. Brian Geralman, Karsten Witten, and Frankie Navarrete, are on-field coaches, and they do a fantastic job. We've been able to retain all of them. At the same time, we're building recruiting classes on top of each other. And so, the players on the team have more comfort, familiarity with each other. Their relationships have grown. Our relationships as staff with the players have grown at the same time. You're starting to see the transformation, and what happens in the recruiting process is when you get to know families and young men along the process, and they buy into a vision, and they understand what the program's going to be about. And then you get to have them here on campus. And, now we've got our first group of returning players that were a part of our first recruiting class. And so you're seeing a lot of the growth and continuity with the relationships, the comfort, the expectations across the board. And so I think that's really been an exciting part for me.
Yeah, one thing you emphasized back on episode 26 was that the South Florida area, generally, it has its advantages and disadvantages in recruiting and forming a roster that you believe can compete for a College World Series. What have you learned about that regard entering year number 3, and how to handle such a broad area for baseball in South Florida, especially going up against the bunch of other schools that call South Florida home?
Well, there's no secret that great players are here in South Florida. Miami in particular, Dade County, Broward County. There's no secret that great baseball players are here. And like we talked about earlier, it's in the culture of this area. My family and I drive past Little League ballparks, every day on the way to the gym or on the way to work. And, every weekend you're still seeing, 9, 10, 11, 12-year-old Little Leaguers playing tournaments this time of year. So, they grow up loving the sport. They grow up loving the game. And what we want to be able to do is show the area, show the community, show South Florida that this baseball program is one to be proud of, and one to aspire to attend one day, and one to dream of being a part of one day. And so, for us, we want to have a product on the field and men a part of the program that the community and the area is proud of. I think we've really accomplished a lot of those goals. There's always going to be room for growth in that type of area, but I think that's a really important part of it is getting the people in the community to understand this is a fantastic place. It's a beautiful location. It's an unbelievable university, a university that continues to grow and reach new heights academically. And so you're going to have a chance to walk out of here To quote Scott Carr, it's one of my favorites, is, walk out with a ring in one hand and a diploma in the other, from an outstanding institution, and also being a part of a great baseball program. So that's something that we've really, worked to make sure that local recruits understand this is a great place to play, a great place to get a degree from, and a great family to be a part of as well.
For you personally, Coach, it's been a pretty eventful offseason. You welcome a new member to the family. Just talk about that and having to handle, the coaching side and as well as, the family side of things.
You guys surprised me with this one. That's nice, right? That's a nice touch. Well done on the research page right there. Hey, KB, there you go. I love it. Yeah. That's fantastic. No, I think all of the cliches about having children are totally true. You never knew what type of love and care you were capable for. I think most of your life that you think about, what you're called to do, whether it's, to play a game, to run a business, to coach, to whatever your dream path may take you, whichever way you may think it's going. When you become a parent, when you become a father, you really understand that is a higher calling than any of the other things that you might have had headed towards, before you had them. So, I'm so blessed to have a wonderful wife. She's an absolute rock star, wonderful professional in her own right, fantastic mom. We've got a lot of diapers in our house right now. Okay. The little guy, we've got he just turned 2. And our daughter was born in August, so she's coming up on 4 months old right now. So, it's definitely a juggling act. I think the ride home is the mindset change for me personally. When you're driving to work, you're driving to the field, you're getting your mind right and getting prepared for the tasks at hand and what the day is going to look like. And on the way home, you're probably decompressing from what that day at the office and the field looked like, and changing that mindset. Because when you walk in the door, it's daddy mode. With a few timeouts for, recruit calls, and things like that. But, like I said, my wife is an absolute rock star. Kids are very, very blessed to have healthy, wonderful kids. Our first son, James, and now our first daughter, Victoria, was born in August. So there's not a lot of dull moments in the Witten household right now, but wouldn't have it any other way.
Love to hear that. Coach, let's talk about 2024. That you guys finished with a 27-30 record. Overall, great, good step in the right direction. You guys go to the Conference USA tournament for the first time in a while, beat Western Kentucky, unfortunately not able to get too far past that after. But just talk about the season as a whole. A lot of offense, pitching had their struggles, but some pretty bright names on that end too. Just talk about, kind of recap that season.
Yeah, I think it was a huge step for the program, but it's a double-edged sword because we're still pretty far away from the goals that we want to achieve. I think from a development standpoint, from being able to show people the progress that we're making and that we're working towards was a huge part of it. But there's things to be proud of from that season. Really, it's about the young men on that team, is how I see it. We had a lot of fantastic baseball players that were really a part of that first recruiting class once we had been here, and brought them in for year number 2. They bought into really the standards that we wanted to have here in the program and the goals that we wanted to set. And they bought into that. They believed in our staff. They believed in the program. They set a higher standard for the program, than it had been for the last couple of years. And, so for us, we're looking to take a huge jump going into this year because we got a lot of those key pieces coming back. But really just a couple guys on that team that you're going to be forever grateful for because of what they were able to do and what they meant to the program. Guys that had been here for, 3 and 4 years. Ryan Kabarkis is a guy off the top of the head that is one of my favorite guys I've ever had the pleasure to coach. And he went through a coaching staff change, which is not easy, for the players to go through. And just had great attitudes throughout this time, that I got to coach him. So it was a great step in the right direction. But really the job is nowhere close to being done. And that's really why I'm excited about year number 3 right now is, trying to build off of the progress and some of the momentum coming off of last year's team and really take that next jump to be a leader in Conference USA and also, a leader nationally.
Yeah, Coach, there were a lot of iconic players that played for FIU in their final season in 2024, but I think a lot about Ryan Guida, the Rhino. His 2 years with FIU ended last season. Just talk about him specifically, what he brought to the squad, likely going down as, I mean, I would personally say one of the best sluggers that the Panthers have had in recent memory, a 2-time guest of the show. Just talk a bit about what you're going to miss the most about Ryan.
You know, I'm going to miss 2 things about Rhino, okay? And I'm glad you brought him up because he's been another one that's an absolute joy to coach and a joy to be around. We're going to miss Rhino in 2 different ways. You know, number one, I didn't have to think about who was hitting in the 3-hole for 2 straight years, which is quite a blessing as a baseball coach. You know, you pretty much, put Rhino in the 3-hole and then build around it. And that's quite a luxury that he afforded us for 2 years. But, you know, outside of that, I think something that people need to understand and appreciate about Rhino is how much he loved the game. Mm-hmm. Like you almost had to tell him at times, hey, I need 5 seconds to think about, you know, a different part of the team right now, because all he wants to do is talk about hitting and talk about the game and dive into the X's and O's of it and thinking about his approach and working on something into his next at bat. And, he was religious with his routine every single day. It almost became a little bit of a running joke of Guida getting activated. Because we all like to have some good fun with him, and he will self-admittedly, claim to not be the best athlete going. But that didn't stop him from everything that he needed to do to prepare to be successful. He was out there every day, first to the cages, getting his body warm, getting it primed, ready to go, religious with his routine, incredibly coachable. Very quick to make adjustments. If he had, 1 or 2 small parts of a swing that weren't in sync, you could look at some video, you could give him 1 or 2 cues, and then bam, he was right back on it. So, a couple, his love for the game is something that I really grew to appreciate over the 2 years getting to spend with him. Very high IQ guy for, baseball IQ and in the classroom as well. Graduated with a business degree, I think almost a 4.0 GPA, but, the baseball IQ as well. And just like I said, he was our professional hitter. And so we're going to miss the Rhino. And he's a local guy, so we've had a chance to see him a couple times this fall, which, really means a lot to me. We've had a really great group of alumni that have been, training in the off season, whether they're still playing or guys that are just stopping by to see practice and hang out with the boys. So, those are great signs because it is about more than just the game. It's about these lifelong relationships that guys will build and guys will grow into. It's hard for them to imagine it right now, but, I'm getting to live it, being a young father and starting my family that, these will be players that you have at your weddings one day and you send pictures to of your first children and are a part of your life for a long time. So to see those guys build their relationships, come back, they enjoyed being a part of the program, they want to continue to follow it and be fans of it as alumni, is something that I'm excited about and proud to represent.
There were quite a few notable wins last season, but I think one that still will stand the test of time because it's something that FIU has not done in a while was defeat the Miami Hurricanes, right? Early May, first time since 2018 that happened. Just talk a bit about finally beating a team that has unfortunately had FIU's number for a while.
Yeah, they've definitely had our number for a little bit. And, a lot of respect to those guys. They run a fantastic program. In my opinion, it's a fun rivalry. I don't see a lot of, malice between the 2 programs because I think a lot of the players, have known each other that grew up locally here. I've known JD for, over a decade now. And have good relationships with the guys on their staff, had great relationship with Gino when he was there. So, there's certainly a mutual respect when it comes to playing them and competing against them. But that doesn't mean that we don't want to beat them, every single opportunity we get. Okay. So do not take, friendly relationships lightly because we definitely want to make sure that we play our best games against those guys because, that game is not just for us and for our players. Okay. That game is for FIU alumni, guys that played here in the past, FIU fans in the community that may have some bragging rights throughout town when they're going to the coffee shop or the barber and, have some friends they can talk a little smack to. So, that game is something that's, I think is important for the program. a tradition we're going to be able to keep going. So, it felt like we finally got the monkey off our back a little bit last year. We'd played a lot of close games and lost a couple heartbreakers against them over the last 2 years. And so, great to get that win. But, like I said, not for myself, but really for our players and a lot of the FIU fans and alumni out there that become very proud of that.
Yeah, man, that game against the University of Miami, it was such a good it's a good candidate for this next question, but I really want to know what you're going to say. Which game this season for FIU was the best showcasing of how good this team can be when everything was clicking?
That's a great question, Jake. I think, really, I looked at our first conference game last year against Western Kentucky. I think we had a really strong pre-conference schedule, played some very solid teams, competed well against them. And, when you're playing down here early in the spring, you get a little bit used to 75 and sunny. And when you head up to Bowling Green, Kentucky in early March to start your conference tournament, you're not always sure how your guys are going to react. And so I think we had really strong mindsets going into it. We were prepared to face some colder weather than we were used to. And that didn't affect us at all. And really opening night into the conference season, I think we ended up maybe run ruling them, and it was just a total game. The pitchers were fantastic through that entirety of the game. Every at bat was incredibly competitive. We had production 1 through 9 in the lineup. And so, I think we were able to go on the road and play in some adverse conditions where it was pretty chilly up there, and to see our guys excited to play and open up in conference against a really strong conference opponent, and overcome some adversity and play as well as they did, I thought was a great tone setter for the season because, we actually dropped the game. And I really think that whole series was great for the team because we dropped on Saturday. So you're going into Sunday, having the rubber match on Sunday. And, it was a tight game late into that Sunday. I think it was, 2-1 or 2-2 going into the, 7th, 8th inning. Got a couple big swings. AD hits a 3-run home run to give us some separation. And so, to go on the road and really play as well as we did in the first couple games, I thought set the tone for, the next few weeks to follow.
Talk a little bit about the guys that maybe aren't with the program anymore that really had impact seasons for you guys, especially someone like a Zach Lampton, Orlando Hernandez, and you already mentioned a little bit about Ryan Kabarkas, but there were some guys, especially late into the season on that pitching staff, that really came in big for you guys when it was really needed.
Yeah, no doubt. There's some unsung heroes on that pitching staff from last year. And you're exactly right. Orly and Lampton were two guys that really had fantastic senior years. And Cam Knox was another one that just quietly under the radar had a phenomenal year. Just kind of, we joked that we snuck him in there on Friday night because he's not a big personality. He's not a loud guy. He's not a showboater. And for him, he's just very professional in his work and, very mature attitude. And so, it was great to see those guys have the success. And really what was fun to see was the development and the jumps and the progression that those guys made. Zach Lampton, really became a totally different person throughout his career here. And I told him that when he left, how proud I was of him to see him, be able to, he struggled with his emotions a little bit early in his career, struggled with command at times, would let, some negative things that happen speed up on him a little bit. Throughout his career here, he just became one of the most enjoyable kids we had on the team last year, super high competitor, and just an unhittable fastball, the hardest 88 to 89 you've ever seen, really deceptive delivery with an unhittable fastball. And, just really watching his growth, both on the mound and both as a young man at the same time is someone that really stood out to me. And, especially late in the year, we had some tough injuries in the last month of the season. You're at the midway point in the season. We were 10-5 in the conference, sitting in second place, 7 or 8 games over 500 overall. with some strong RPI ratings. Orly goes down with a really tough injury. He ends up developing, Bell's palsy into the back half of the season, and just, it was a little bit scary for everyone, to be honest with you. And making sure that he was okay. Baseball was kind of the last thing on our minds with him. But I'm not sure how much the public knew about it, but Kabarkis was absolutely limping through the last month of the season. He had a really tough hip injury that he was fighting through, and ended up having surgery on it actually after the season. And so for him to fight through and give us everything he could. And, Rundy was another guy that we've got back, but had an oblique injury and missed about a month, didn't get him back till really about the conference tournament. And those were some of our horses, through the first half of the season. And, Lambton and Knox and some of those guys like that were guys that stepped up for us in the back half. And, it was just really fun to watch those guys, blossom throughout their career here. And, I think that's something that, may be missing a little bit in today's game is, if guys are going to, go to 3 different schools in 4 years, it's really hard to build, year after year, for you personally, because every coach is going to have his own way of doing things and their own developmental plans, and developmental plans are, realistically, they're not meant to be 4-month programs or 6-month programs or 9-month programs. They're meant to be, 3 and 4 year programs that are all encompassing, that help you achieve your academic success that you want to, and stay on track to graduate on time. And also, build within the development program that's been laid out for you by your current staff. And you saw a lot of those guys, able to build, like I said, continuity with the players, the staff, and, really be able to stay on track through a development plan. And we kind of use the saying, do you get, 1 year of experience 4 times, or are you getting 4 years of experience? Or are you just getting 1 year at 4 different times? Or are you getting 4 years consecutively all at the same place and able to put some things together? And so, I think there's a big difference in, 4 different stops for a year. And I know that's on the exaggerated side, but, when you saw some of those guys that were able to spend a couple years in the program and see the jumps in the development, both on and off the field, I can't talk about it enough. It's one of the favorite parts of my job is being able to watch, kids that just graduated high school turn into, young men that are walking out with a diploma. And so, that was a really exciting part of last year's team, is getting to see a lot of those guys who had some ups and downs throughout their career, really finish on some strong notes.
You mentioned Riley. He signed with the Baltimore Orioles there. How cool is it to see another FIU guy go to the pro level, or at least in the minor leagues with a pro organization?
Yeah, I'm really proud of Riley. I'm glad that he got that opportunity. It was very deserving, and it's what we should be doing here. We should be recruiting players that are talented enough after a couple years of very hard work into the program, that have opportunities to go play professional baseball. And so it's a twofold system that we want to be able to use in the program. We want to be able to recruit very talented players that have those pro skills. But we're also not going to be a program that just rolls the balls out and lets them go play. There's going to be systems in place. There's going to be programs in place, and there's going to be an organized, methodical approach to how we do what we do and why we do it. And, make sure we're maximizing the great talent that we're recruiting once they get here. And, that's going to be our goal, is to get guys out of here with championship rings, diplomas, and, hearing their name called in the MLB draft when they're done with it.
Yep.
All righty, Kevin, is it time for a quick break?
Let's do it.
All righty, let's take you around to my news break, looking at all things FIU athletics and just FIU in general as we get caught up here. So let's start with FIU football. All right, you have a Panther who's already set a lot of accolades this season. He's adding to that as wide receiver Eric Rivers has been named to the AP All-American third team, the first Panther ever to make a spot in the Associated Press's All-American list. It's no surprise, as Rivers ended up 5th in the nation in receiving yards and 4th in touchdowns. So congrats to Rivers on another milestone. Next up is FIU softball, which revealed their 2025 schedule a few days ago. Their gauntlet from February to May consists of their iconic Felsberg Invitational to open up the season against Indiana, Iowa State, and Stony Brook, a trip to Mexico for the Puerto Vallarta College Challenge, their Panther Invitational against Lafayette in Iowa, a SoFlo matchup against FAU in their conference schedule, which starts in early March. Finally, a new FIU-led coastal and inland flood loss model has been certified and approved by the state of Florida. A public loss model refers to a computer model developed and made accessible to the public that estimates potential financial losses from a natural disaster. This new model was designed by FIU's Extreme Events Institute, among 8 other universities, and will assess financial risks faced by insurance companies and set the premiums paid by their customers. So that was your quick look at Newsbreak. Again, Rich, thanks for spending some time with us today. Now we can finally get going talking about the 2025 season, Coach. The schedule is out. Roster still has ways to go. But talk a bit about the vibes and expectations that you have personally for what 2025 can bring.
Well, there's definitely an infectious energy around the program right now, and it starts with the players. These guys have, we've had a lot of key returners, guys that, at the end of the day could have probably had opportunities to leave, but understood that this was a great fit for them, both personally and athletically and academically at the same time. So, getting some of these, stars back that we have is a huge part of it. And, now the challenge to them is to not just be great players, but to be great leaders as well. And a lot of them have embraced that going into the, going into the fall, and then now, finishing up the fall. You've seen a huge jump in the leadership and the camaraderie together of the guys. And really, like I just say, it's a contagious and infectious energy amongst the team right now. You can feel the belief, you can feel the confidence brewing. You can feel the way they support each other right now. And so there's a great energy going into the season, and it's all credit to the players because they're the ones that bring it every single day. And they're the ones that really believe in what we have an opportunity to do this spring.
I know you guys are on a little bit of a break right now. Just talk about a little bit what you saw from the team in the fall, scrimmages, drills, just what you noticed from your team, and maybe any guys who kind of stood out to you just watching what you've seen so far.
Yeah, I think there's a good bit of, returners that have taken jumps, and also some newcomers and incomers that are going to have a big role. You're obviously going to start in the field. You're returning some really key places. You're returning Rooney behind the plate. You're returning Brylan at first base. You're returning Uloa at shortstop, returning, Kaishan in left. And, AD and Hector in the outfield are going to be some huge pieces. Sammy Fisher has played a really nice third base for us throughout the fall, had an awesome summer up in the Northwoods League. He's looked to really take a jump. And, we're sprinkled in some incomers as well that I think are going to be huge pieces to it. And, you're looking at some infielders. Corey Valentine is a really talented junior college infielder, has come in, made a huge impact. 2 freshmen that I think really stand out for us. Well, 3 freshmen really that I think are going to have some great opportunities to make impacts. You're looking at an infielder, Adonis Velez. You're looking at an outfielder, Cole Cleveland, catcher Mark Hirsch, another newcomer behind the plate, Renee Lastris. There's some guys that I challenged them to make it very difficult for me to create a lineup. And they've done a really good job at that, because I probably think about that every single night before I fall asleep of what could this lineup really look like, and how am I going to get, how am I going to create the best opportunities for these guys? Albert Serrano, I'm just going to keep naming names because Albert Serrano is a guy that walked in this fall and led our team offensively in hitting and played a phenomenal center field. So, there's a really strong group of guys that, like I said, have come back and all gotten better. They're all stronger. They're all faster. They have more developed approaches at the plate. Their work ethic and their leadership abilities have all taken the next step, which was really the challenge to the team. And so I'm definitely excited about some of the guys in that position player group. And if you start going over to the mound, you're gonna talk about more of the same thing. You're gonna talk about returners that have gotten better and incomers that have a chance to make a big jump for us and make a big impact. Because it's going to start with Logan Rundy as a returner. It's going to start with Owen Puck as a returner. Kevin Martin, our super senior, the veteran right-hander has had really his best fall, I think, to date here at FIU. was absolutely electric this fall. He's going to, be someone that can create a lot of versatility for us. David Eckes is another guy that's really stood out this fall, had a phenomenal summer in the Valley League, finished up in the Cape Cod League, and was just dominant from the left side for most of this fall. And, even going into the bullpen, guys like Bryce Green, who got some good action last year, but his stuff has taken a big jump, and the way he's handling himself and the maturity that he's showing. I know I'm leaving out some of those returners, but there's a really core group of arms that are returning off last year's team that were kind of a part of that first recruiting class and are now going into year 2 in the system and year 2 into the program. And everything across the board has gotten better. Their fastball is harder. Their sliders are sharper. The command is more polished. The pitchability is at a higher level. But not just that, the way that they're working, the way they challenge each other. When you watch them play catch, you would think there's 20 pitching coaches out there, when they're going through their throw program in the outfield, because they're all coaching each other up. They're looking at the shapes of pitches or talking about different cues and feels that they're working through. And that's been one of our goals. And I told the team that very early. I do not want this to be, a coach-led team. I want this to be a player-led team. Of course, we're going to be here for support and structure, but this is their career and this is their season. And I want them to have that pride in knowing that. And I think they've really grasped onto that concept throughout the fall. And you see the way they interact with each other. You see the way they're working. And it's in the little things, right? It's in, we show up on time. Guys are on time, dressed in the right stuff. They're ready to go. Okay. Final exams just finished up. So I feel like we're going to have a really strong semester academically in the classroom. When you look at voluntary early work before practice even starts, the cages are slammed. The training room is full of guys getting ready to get after it that day at practice. And so I think that's where you're seeing a lot of the jumps is just understanding, how we really need to prepare, what type of standards we need to have in the program. And, I think that goes across every single day that you're working, whether it's a Tuesday, Wednesday in the middle of October during fall practice, whether it's during the Blue and Gold World Series at the end of the fall or, opening day, which will be here very shortly, or a midweek on the road, late in the season, when school's getting tough and the bodies are getting tired and you've already played about 45 games. That's really when the culture shows up and when the toughness of our team will show up and shine. And so I think those are some of the biggest steps, and something I'm proud, and was really, really fun to be able to watch throughout the course of this fall is to watch how the guys grew. And, I realized I did miss a few of our incomers on the mound once I started talking about, how these guys, coach each other up. Because really that's the fun. That's the most fun part for me, is just watching them, take that jump in maturity and understanding what it's going to really take to take the program to the next level. So I get excited and carried away talking about that. But, we've got a couple really, really strong incomers as well. I think you got a chance to see, Easton Marks, Juan Villarreal, some of these guys in some really important roles, whether that's, huge bullpen piece or weekend starters. There's some guys that have shown some really, high ability to get some huge outs for us this year on the mound.
You mentioned, Guida was your guy at the 3-hole almost every day. Kind of felt like Brylan was your leadoff hitter every single day as well. Just talk about him. How nice is it to have someone like him back, who is not only more of a veteran presence, but someone who you could count on to kind of get on base first every single top of the first or bottom of the first.
Yeah, he may have been. I think we may have had the biggest leadoff hitter in the country last year. By having Brylan lead off, definitely curbs the stereotypical, maybe small, undersized, scrappy speedster at the top of the lineup. And listen, I'll give credit where credit's due. Okay. And that's, when I was talking to him, I have a great relationship with his junior college coach when we were recruiting him. And he was actually the one that gave me the idea, to be honest with you. He told me that he led Brylan off, and he said, now stay with me. Okay. Stay with me. Cause Brylan's, 6'4", 230, can hit it over the batter's eye. It's not, it's kind of someone you plug into the 3-4 hole in your head a little bit. But he knew exactly what he was talking about, because Brylan is much more than that. he is a very polished hitter. He's going to give you quality at bats every single time, and he's not just going to hit doubles and home runs. He's going to work deep counts. He's going to have low swing and miss. He's going to be disciplined in the zone. And if he's not getting pitched to, and if he's not getting the pitches that he knows he can handle, he's going to take his walks. And one of the things that makes me, love being around Brylan as much as we all do is he's got an infectious personality. He's one of those guys that you hear him before you see him a lot of days, because he's got a ton of energy, and he's always, cutting it up with the guys. And so he's a really fun personality. And, another reason why we love him so much is, he led our team in hit by pitches last year, and he's super proud of that. And he loves it. And that's just like a coach's dream right there, is you've got one of your best hitters, who will take a hit by pitch, which is purely a team move, right? That's strictly for the team. That doesn't feel good. No one wants to do it. You want to hit, you want to get your swing off, and, you don't want to, catch one of those in a bad spot, but that guy eats it up, and he loves it. I think it fires him up a little bit, when he's wearing some of those pitches, and you can see it in our dugout too. The guys feed off of it. And so, you've got a really, really well-rounded guy in Brylan who can take it, take it deep. He can go bases clearing double, or, he can start an inning off with a really quality at bat and making the pitcher work with high on base percentage at the same time. So, he's a really polished hitter in our lineup that, you could hit him 1, 2, 3, 4, and he's going to fit in just fine to any of those spots.
There's obviously no for sure spot on this roster at the moment. It seems like shortstop being one of them. We've seen Adonis over there. We've seen Alex over there. Just talk about that competition at shortstop, and what are you kind of looking forward to see who would be your opening day guy there?
Yeah, I mean, Alex played, every single day at shortstop last year. He's a guy that we're counting on in a big way. And he's also one, that I think thrives under competition. Okay, he doesn't shy away from it. He embraces it. He enjoys it. And we told him that, coming into this year, that there's going to be really strong competition at shortstop. And when you have the right guys and you have guys with the right attitude, that's going to excite them. That's gonna turn the motor up. That's gonna get the competitive juices flowing. And I think you've seen that, and really you could talk about 3 guys that could play there. Corey Valentin played a lot of shortstop this fall too. And so, if you have the opportunity to get 2 or 3 shortstops on the field at the same time, you're going to really, feel good about your infield defense. And I think that's an area that the program, we needed to get better in. We needed to address, some of our defense coming off of last year's team, and we needed to play better on the defensive side of the ball. And I think we've addressed that in a really strong way. And Alex has had a great fall. He's had an awesome attitude about the competitiveness. And, you got 3 big personalities, out there taking reps at shortstop every single day. But what you see, from a coach's standpoint, is that they also enjoy each other. They enjoy the competition. They enjoy working hard. They enjoy trying to, one up each other every single play, and who's gonna bring it on what day. And so, you're seeing that behind the plate too. We've got an unbelievable competition behind the plate going on right now. I mean, you're talking about legitimately 4 guys that are all going to earn opportunities behind the plate. Like we talked about, Brendan Rooney is a really stable piece back there. He's a great leader. He's a fantastic young man, someone that I've had the pleasure to be around now for 4 years, and very consistent behind the plate, going to give you quality at bats. Renee Lastris is a local guy, that we recruited out of the transfer portal last year. And he had a great fall. He has every tool imaginable, big, strong, athletic guy with a big arm behind the plate, some of the best arm strength that I've seen behind the plate, and then huge power at the same time. And, a couple of guys that may be some dark horses, at least 2, outsiders of the program right now are going to be Nelson Rivera and Mark Hirsch. Nelly's a former, All-American. He was a freshman All-American, but before he ran through some injuries and had a tough couple of years. And so he missed last year and redshirted, but he's come back and really, really played well in the back part of the fall as he continued to get more healthy. And, Mark Hirsch is a part of that, of a really strong freshman class that our staff brought in. who's going to certainly have earned some opportunities behind the plate too. So, really, I think that's what you're looking for as a coach, is to create competition at every spot that you possibly can, but also encourage and have the players embrace the competition, because that should elevate your game, and we should run towards the competition, and that should make us hungrier and more competitive on a day-to-day basis than, allowing guys to get comfortable or think they have a spot that's, locked down and they're untouchable. That's not going to be the case. We've got more talent and more depth on this roster than any team we've had here in 3 years. And we're going to use that to our advantage. And the guys understand that. They've done a really great job of supporting each other while competing against, their teammates at the same time. And that's a tough thing. It's a tough thing to do for our guys, but, they're mature. They embrace it. They love the competition. And, it makes for a really high energy practice and environment at ballpark every day you get to come play there.
Yeah, and you mentioned depth, and I think that's pitching is the big part where the depth has certainly showed, at least early on. And two guys that have really stood out, and you kind of quickly mentioned them, Easton Marks, I believe, Utah State transfer, and Choco, who was a JUCO guy, I believe. So just talk about those two guys. Do you kind of project them as starters, at least Choco? And just talk about the fall that they had. They really stood out. Easton seems like he's getting upper 90s already.
Yeah, they did. Both those guys just kept getting better, throughout the fall. We were certainly excited about landing both of them on the recruiting side. But there is, there's always uncertainty there until you really see it with your own eyes in person. And two really unique individuals, which I think also speaks to our ability to recruit. Different personalities, different geographic areas. Easton is from Colorado. Initially, it's where all his family still lives. He was at Nevada, so you were right there. But he was at Nevada for his first 2 years. Always had a very high arm talent. And actually just started pitching pretty recently in his career. He went to Nevada as a two-way player and has only really been singularly focused on pitching for the last year and a half or so. And he's just had really big arm talent his whole life. And, polishing up his arsenal, becoming more consistent from outing to outing was really where he wanted to take his jumps. And he's done that. He had some of our best command of anyone on staff this year, while sitting in the mid-90s every outing. He's running it up there 96, 97 early in his outings pretty much every time out. And also filling up the zone with some tough off-speed pitches to go with it. Juan is a guy that we got from a Texas junior college. He's from Panama originally. His family is still there. His parents live there, and just an infectious, energetic, great personality to be around. He's always got a smile on his face. He just the gratitude that he has for everything in his life is totally infectious, and really, really fun guy to be around. And 6'6" left-handers with a good changeup don't grow on trees. And, that's a guy that, we were really fortunate to land. And he's only gotten better. He's going to be, he's got a good enough fastball to beat you, and a changeup he can throw at any count with some deception to go along with it. And a good breaking ball that he has feel for. And, you could see him, having a big role in the bullpen late in the game. You could see him, starting on the front end and getting through a lineup a couple different times. So, both those guys have some really good stuff on the mound, but also, I think their pitchability is what's going to allow them to really be impact arms for us this year.
Yeah, last one for me is I want to ask about Owen Puck, someone who had his highs and lows last season. The velo's there. Maybe just the ability to throw strikes really wasn't at points. Just talk about him. What are you seeing maybe differently now going into 2025?
Yeah, it's just mound time for him. It really is how I see it. It's just getting on the mound over and over again. And, every single bullpen he throws, every outing that, that he has, he gets better. He gets more experience. He creates better feel for his stuff. And Owen is a little bit of a mad scientist at the same time. He's got a goofy personality, in the right setting, but when it comes to his mind as a pitcher, he's very thorough and he's very in depth, and he's constantly trying to get a better feel for what may be his best arsenal, or watching video, or soaking up everything from Coach Witten that he possibly could. And obviously he's got some great resources in his life. I know him and his brother have a great relationship. So they have the ability to, talk some pitching at the same time. And so, for Owen, there's no question that the ability is there, and really watching the kind of fall that he had was what we were looking to see out of him, coming back into this year. And so, he's made a few tweaks to his arsenal, I think, which have made, a big difference for him. I think he's been a little bit less focused on trying to do as many things well as he possibly can, and really tried to spend more time and energy on focusing on, 2 or 3 concepts, and 2 or 3 pitches, instead of, maybe having 6 different pitches that he's working on all the time. Hey, maybe let's really prioritize and focus on, 2 to 3 and allow those to become elite pitches, and then branch out our arsenal from there. He's bought into that. He believes in it, and he had a great fall. So, he's going to have a chance to be a big X factor for us.
Coach, one player I'm really interested in hearing your thoughts on is Kaishan Fret, the redshirt junior. You bring him in from Seminole State College, and then he immediately turns around, plays in 50 games, leads the team in overs. He already made such an impact for this squad in his first year alone. How do you think he's elevated his game ahead of February?
Kaishan was one of our, most talented guys in that entire recruiting class, and really one of the most talented guys that I've really had the opportunity to coach. But, I think what would be the criticism to him is that for the most part, it was just a lot of talent, and we needed to make sure that we were fine tuning the swing a little bit more and advancing his game, to someone who's going to be more, than just an all or nothing type of guy. And what we've seen is he's embraced that, every single round in the cages. He wants to talk about the swing now. He wants to see, what I'm seeing or what our staff is seeing. We talk about what he's feeling. And so the feedback and the interactions that we're able to have with him this year, really show me how he's matured and where he's at in his baseball career right now, because he's understanding the game at a different level right now. He's understanding the swing at a different level, and, really what makes him successful, and, continuing to fine tune his approach, because he's going to be circled on a lot of people's scouting reports this year. And so that's a little bit different, for some of these guys who, could have potentially snuck up on some people last year without a lot of track record, but they're going to be circled this year. And so, seeing his maturity on the field has been a really big part of it. And, he's a guy that's just, he's got a great heart, and, it's really been fun to see him blossom into the young man that he's become. He's like I said this about a lot of guys, but he's really matured. His work ethic has gotten better. The pride in his defense has taken a jump across the board. And so, you're just seeing these guys continue to evolve in their game and take pride in it, and want to learn more about it, and want to dive in deeper to different parts of the game. And, he's one that we've seen take a big jump. And so we're expecting a huge year out of him. But, we don't want to look, with any of these guys, you can't look at what the end of last season's stats were and just think about that going into the season. We've got to really make sure we're taking things one day at a time, focusing on how we execute each day individually and how we build on those days. And, you can't go into opening day, and hit 16 home runs in one weekend. So, you've got to understand that there's a process behind it. And he's really bought into that. And like I said, just matured in a lot of ways around the team. So it's been fun to watch his progression. And, he's another one of those guys that I think's got a chance to be scary good this year.
Coach, again, thanks so much for spending some time with us, man. Let's get into some fun rapid fire questions here to start to close up the shop.
All right.
Who would you say right now is the funniest player on this team?
Well, Brylan, just because he at least tries to be the funniest player on the team right now. So his effort is definitely there. He's constantly cutting it up and having a good time. So he's a fun personality.
Music, I would say, is pretty important. When you're taking BP in the clubhouse, who do you give the aux to, and who shouldn't get the aux on the baseball team?
Well, I think it's turned into a little bit of a running joke with the guys, but I'll get in there on the aux too. Okay. And so, I like to mix it up and, on my mix, you'll hear a little bit of everything for everybody. Okay. You'll go from 90s country music, to Don Omar or reggaeton, it's going to be everything in between. And, so we're going to mix it up if I get on the aux and, if anyone else is on the aux, I just try as much as I can to give them a hard time about all the bad songs they play. So I just make sure that, if there's, if someone else is on it and they've run through 50 bangers, then, if 51 is no good, they're going to hear about it, so
there we go.
we like to mix it up and give a little something for everybody.
So where on campus would you say, Rich, is your favorite place to grab a quick bite to eat?
Tropical smoothie. And it's a twofold answer. Okay. I do like to eat on the healthy side. All right. Even though I enjoy a pepperoni pizza as much as anybody, but I do try and keep it healthy most of the time. So, if you're in a bind, it's going to be healthy and it's very close to the baseball field. So you can get over there pretty quick and easy. Yeah. But, the good thing about our campus is that you're never too far away from a colada. So, those are always encouraged to be brought to the field, whether it's a staff member, a player. If you got a colada, you better be ready to share because it's going to be passed around. So that's one of my favorites as well.
You guys rock a lot of uniforms. Which one would you say is your favorite right now?
I like our classics. The Friday night white pinstripes at home.
Yes.
It's a clean look. They're classy. They're sharp. The boys look good in them. And so that's definitely one of my favorites. And, we won't dive too much into it, but, we may or may not have one new one added to the rotation this year. We'll just have to see what that looks like here in a couple weeks.
That's awesome. I mean, pinstripes will never not look good on a baseball uniform. So I agree completely. Rich, name an all-time baseball player that you wish you were able to play a game of catch with.
King Griffey Jr. was my hero growing up. I mean, how cool was he? I mean, he was just the coolest guy. Yeah. Could play center field, steal bases, hit towering home runs, just a phenomenal athlete. The sweet Griffey swing. That was really the generation that I grew up in watching and admiring. And he was the kid, he had fun with the game. He loved it. And so, for me, that was like, number one growing up.
All right, Rich, again, thanks so much, man, for spending quite a bit of time with us today. I'll if you have anything you'd like to say to the fans, to FIU, to anyone, the floor is now yours.
Well, I'm so blessed and thankful to be able to be here and represent our program. I've said this on a couple different occasions, but the program belongs to our players that are on the team right now. The program belongs to the players that have played here in the past, and it belongs to the players that will continue to come play here in the future. It belongs to the fans, the people in the community that love FIU, that went to FIU. And local people that are Panthers, and through and through. And, you're seeing them spread throughout the country now. And so, really, I'm excited and very proud and blessed to be a part of this university, this storied program. And, I hope to be, one small piece of it that allows the program to continue to grow and really empower the players and the fans to be a part of this program and to be proud of it. And I can't wait to see you at the ballpark February 14th. It's Valentine's Day. So if you're a baseball fan, you got to talk your significant other into coming out to the FIU baseball stadium and watching us play against Stonehill on opening day. So, I appreciate the support of a lot of the people in the program. There's a lot of great, alumni, fans, donors that I get text messages from constantly. They can't wait to start the season. You know, and our administration, you know, they're phenomenal from Scott Carr to Alex Kelly, who I get to work with. You know, these guys are trailblazers, you know, in college athletics right now. And you feel the support, you know, from the administration, and you feel the success coming, you know, from not just baseball, but from a lot of programs on campuses. It's a great group of head coaches and staffs to go with it. And I'm just, like I said, every time I get a chance to talk about it and sit back and think about how blessed I am, you know, it's an unbelievable opportunity. So I appreciate you guys, and it was a lot of fun to be here today.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much, Rich. I did want to quickly ask, I forgot to ask this earlier. Willie Simmons, now the head coach of FIU football. You were at his introductory presser alongside us. What were your thoughts on the move? And have you met him already? Just what are the vibes with Willie?
I did get a quick chance to meet him. You know, I'll try and keep the story short, but we had our athletic department holiday dinner last weekend. Okay. Oh. Like right after he got hired, maybe 1 or 2 days after. And my wife and I were driving to the holiday party, which was our first night out in probably several months, which was fantastic. You know, to be able to go enjoy that. And she was asking me on the way there, do you think, you know, the new football coach will be there? And I thought, no way. Like, no way. This guy just got hired. He's got 1,000,001 things going on right now. You know, when you first get hired, it's like, you know, drinking out of a fire hydrant. It is a lot coming at you at one time. And sure enough, he was there. And so got a chance to say hello to him, small talk for a few minutes. And I thought that was a great move to come get to meet a lot of the other coaches and family members here on campus, because I think, you know, it is an athletic department that feels like a family. We got a lot of great relationships with other coaches' families, you know, the administration. And so got a chance to meet him quickly. He told me he was a big baseball fan. He said that was his first love. So I can't wait to dive into that conversation a little bit more with him when things slow down for him. But clearly he's an incredibly accomplished individual, very well-spoken guy when you hear him talk about the things that he wants to do here in the program. Very intelligent. It sounds like, you know, he's an offensive-minded guy that's going to bring a lot of excitement to the program. And so I can't wait to see, you know, what our football team does. And, you know, it's an exciting time to be a part of the department.
We'll definitely need to ask Willie about that his baseball side, maybe in the future, in a future episode. But okay, Rich, thank you so much for spending some time with us today, man.
All right. Appreciate it, fellas. Good to see y'all.
Yes, sir.
All right. For Kevin, Rich, and myself saying so long and paws up.